Welcome to Futurecom TV. This is our How-To series.
DVR VRX 1000 Mobile Repeater Basic Programming Webinar. Good morning and welcome to Futurecom Systems Group DVR VRX 1000 Programming 101 Training Webinar. My name is Mario Morales and I am a Technical Account Manager with Futurecom. I will be joined today by Adam Kolansky, Director of Production Engineering, and Mark Townsend, Marketing and today's moderator. In our invitation email, we have provided sample code plugs that you may reference as part of the training. Thanks to all who have signed up, and we'll have more training series that go into more detail in the coming months. At the most basic level, the DVRS is a mini base station that is connected back-to-back with a mobile radio and a mobile repeater, so that when the radio receives a valid signal, the repeater transmits, and when the repeater receives, the mobile transmits. Our solutions help enhance RF coverage, filling in coverage gaps, whether it be, for example, in-building or radio fringe areas. Here you see a snapshot of our portfolio, coupled with Motorola mobile radios. The industry-leading vehicular DVRS, the transportable DVR in a suitcase, great for quick, easy deployment situations such as disasters, remote areas, or when you cannot get a vehicle in close enough to the intended area. On the right, our cabinet mount, which contains a DVR, and it can be used in those remote areas where the dollars or funds for a full-blown site are not justified. Finally, on the lower left, the simplex-only, smaller, simplified version of the DVRS, the VRX 1000. Today, we will be going over the basic programming of the three components you see here. This will be a basic introduction to get the system up and operational. Once you have voice passing, additional steps can be taken to fully experience all the features the solution is capable of. However, for the sake of time, we won't dive deeply into those additional fields in this webinar. Please note, additional training webinars will take place in 2018 to go over some of the specific enhanced features that the DVRS and VRX 1000 are capable of. Please be sure to pay attention for those notices via our newsletter. Also note, many CPS and Tweaker backup slides of additional fields are hidden, but will be made available if needed, as well as after the presentation in PDF format. On-site training packages are also available at a fee for a more personalized, in-depth training approach. Please see the Futurecom ordering guide or your Motorola ordering codes for additional information. This is also a good time to point out some of the acronyms we'll be referring to often in this presentation. MSU is Mobile Subscriber Unit, PSU, Portable Subscriber Unit, LPSU is a Local Portable Subscriber Unit that has been switched to a conventional DVR channel to run through the Futurecom product. And finally, DVR, Digital Vehicular Repeater. For those who are following along with the sample code plugs, we will be using Motorola's APX CPS and our Futurecom software that is available on our website under Support. Programming Overview. There are some dependencies to the operation. For starters, please ensure your repeater is on the correct firmware in relation to your Motorola APX radios. A compatibility chart is available on our website, as well as the firmware and aforementioned software. The next slide will give you a view of that compatibility chart. A note, if you update your APX firmware, chances are you will have to do the same to the DVRS, as they go hand in hand. Portable type will also play a role in how the system will operate. If you have an APX portable with a DVRS option QA00631, those PSUs going through the DVRS will exhibit enhanced trunking-like features on the DVRS's conventional channel. Finally, the system infrastructure type also plays a role. If the system is P25 digital or conventional only, one must pay attention to selecting the correct fields in the CPS. Or, for example, if working on a Type 2 trunking system, you would select analog operation when requested. The firmware compatibility chart from our website is displayed here. For example, if we were to look at the top two rows on this slide, if you upgraded the APX MSU firmware from R16 to R17 and you were using Tweaker version 1.40, you would also need to update to FutureCom firmware version 1.41. So the firmware in our MSU and DVR are matching. Before we get started with the programming steps, we need to make sure the host mobile is DVRS capable. The host mobile, which is physically connecting to the DVRS or VRX1000, must be remote mount and have DVRS option G as in golf, A as in alpha, 00631. If the mobile has this option, you should see DVRS configuration in the cold plug configuration tree as you see here. If you are still uncertain and think your MSU host radio should have the option, another way to confirm is via the feature set. The steps for this would be code plug, show feature set. Once it is expanded, you would see or not see DVRS option GA00631 in your feature set. Once we have confirmed the mobile is DVRS capable, it is time to get started. Information can be found in the installation and programming manual on our website, and a summary of the steps are listed here. You'll see we'll have to touch the MSU, DVR, and PSU in the recommended order. We'll get into each of the steps now, but these steps are a good guide to keep handy for reference. Starting with a mobile or MSU, you should begin by programming your mobile as you would a regular system mobile. Ensure a valid ID is used so that it is properly affiliated to the system. Set up your code plug as you would your fleet's MSUs and check transmit and receive of the MSU, ensuring it is properly working on the system. Once you have a working mobile on the system, we can begin by programming for DVRS use. A summary of this MSU programming consists of enabling the hardware, setting up a DVR profile, adding a DVRS menu item, enabling DVRS personalities, and exporting the MSU code plug to the DVRS. We'll briefly go through each step now. First step in programming the MSU, enabling the DVRS hardware. In the APX CPS navigation tree, go into DVRS configuration, click on DVRS wide, and begin by checking off the DVRS hardware enabled checkbox. Ensure this is checked off if running a DVRS through the mobile. Continue to the next two fields, VIP control and in-car monitor. VIP defaults to active closed. This is okay to leave that as is. You would adjust this based on how you want to activate the DVRS based on if a switch is open or closed. Additional setup would be required here if you wish to use VIP control. ICM, in-car monitor, will allow for audio in the mobile speaker from the LPSU. We normally like to set it up as hub controlled, so feel free to change it to this hub or hang-up box. Note, these two fields can be changed or tweaked later on based on your configuration needs. Next, under DVRS configuration, right-click to add a new profile. A new profile is added. feel free to change the name for easy reference. For example, DVRS1. Numerous fields in this DVRS profile can be configured, such as remote activation, generate status on DVRS mode change, in-car monitor allowed, local mode, and local TX fallback for the MSU. More information on these fields can be found by double-clicking on the specific field. I'll show you an example here. I will click on local TX field. You see I get information on that field. A description states that it directly related to the MSU's function. It states that when operating in a DVRS system mode, the MSU can revert to local mode for MSU initiated calls in the event that communication with the fixed network equipment, or FNE, fails. To put it simpler, it asks, if you cannot hit the system, do you want the repeater to still repeat the audio locally in the MSU? Bearing in mind, if mid-call and it can't reach the system and transmitting in local mode, a call will get upgraded mid-call to communicate back up to the network to a full system mode call. This is similar to a very important feature we mentioned throughout all our presentations, PSU fallback, or direct fallback. This is when a portable cannot hit the system, or DVRS, and after hearing a bonk, it will generate an alternate tone and auto switch to a direct radio-to-radio communication, so that any user nearby can hear any users in possible distress. For the sake of time, we won't go through every field here in the Profiles section. Please feel free to send in your questions if needed. After your DVRS profile is all set, we'll jump up to adding a DVRS menu button in both the conventional and trunking menu options. Go to Radio Ergonomics, Controls, Menu. Initially, you will want a menu item to control the different modes of the DVRS for troubleshooting and testing. However, once all set up, be sure to test it and get user feedback, as this is an option if you want the end user to activate the repeater from the control head. Some may want this ability. For others, you may not want to give them this access. It's all programmable, and there are various types of activation methods to make it as easy as possible for you and your end user. Such examples are strapping DVRS channels, remote activation, or VIP controls. We'll get into those enhanced activation methods in future training sessions. Next, we need to tell the radio which personalities you want the DVRS to be enabled or disabled on. You would do this for both trunking and your conventional personalities. Here you see in a trunking personality labeled 2, we scroll down to the DVRS profile selection and change from DVRS disabled to the newly created DVRS profile. You can turn DVRS on or off on a per personality basis. Pick enable or disable. This can be done on a mode-by-mode basis, and reasons to disable may be operational. Perhaps we want the DVRS not to work on certain channels. This may be due to frequency-based situation, as the MSU system freaks are too close to the DVRS and need to be disabled. Do the same for your conventional personalities. Enable or disable, based on if you want the DVRS to be active on a certain zone and channel. If you have many personalities and you want a quick check of which are DVRS enabled or not, click on the alternate mode view as seen by the blue arrow and scroll over to the DVRS profile selection. This will give you a quick view if the personalities in question is DVRS selected and enabled or DVRS disabled. That should complete the basic programming of the MSU. Be sure to save and write the changes. If you forget to save and write, you may see errors at the "You think" you have completed the programming of the DVR in the next section. In APX CPS, hit Cold Plug DVRS Export. It will pull up a Save As window, and it is a good idea to change the save file folder location to a known location. Or, before you export, you can change that save file folder location via Tools, Options. This will export all the information from the MSU to use in the DVRS. Note, after you make changes to the mobile, you may see flashing sync error on the control head. This means you changed the MSU but haven't updated the repeater. Basic programming of the MSU should be all set. We will move on to the programming of the DVRS. DVRS programming. Futurecom's tweaker software, firmware, manuals, and much more useful information can be found on www.futurecom.com. Go to Support, Documentations and Software, DVRS/BRX1000. Scroll through the page for information including case studies, white papers, and the firmware and software. Direct link to the DVRS and BRX1000 software is included here, but note, the link may change as revisions change. It is best to find the firmware and software via the support page. Please also download the APX installation and programming manual for more in-depth information on all the capabilities of our solutions. A summary of the DVRS programming steps is listed before you. Begin by making sure the DVRS is powered on. This is done by connecting it to a powered up MSU, noting that all controls of the DVR are done through the Motorola mobile control head. Connect the programming cable to the USB ports on a DVRS or BRX1000 and programming computer. A quick summary of the main steps are as follows, but note, we will go into more detail of these steps. Step 1. Load data from DVR. Step 2. We then import the exported MSU XML file. The rest of the steps can be grouped together. Programming the DVR, with the most important aspect, entering and checking the FCC ordered mobile repeater freaks, and checking your NACs, NIDs, and or PLs. Note, this will be the reciprocal of what we will program into the portables later. Continue on with any addition of channels and channel modes. This is a mere simplification of the programming, of course, but a good start with basic steps. Now let's look closer at those steps. Here's a screenshot of step 1. Once you have Tweaker open and the equipment powered up and the programming cables connected, hit Repeater, Load Data from APX Repeater. You may see an error. That is just a reminder to import the MSU XML file. Now, we'll import the Motorola XML file. From Tweaker, hit File, Import, Motorola File, and select your previously saved MSU XML file. After importing, the sync error that was displayed on the MSU control head should go away. DVRS code plugs are saved as DPD files. Here's a tip. If you are sharing DVRS code plugs with one another, or a DPD file has been emailed to you, you will not be able to open the file straight from the email, as you can do with an APX code plug. To open one up, you first have to save it as a DPD file to a folder, open Tweaker on your computer, then hit File, DPD Files, Load DPD File, and select the saved DPD file. Now, we should be ready to view the various fields in the DVRS Tweaker software. A snapshot of those are displayed here but for basic operation, only a few will need to be reviewed today. Our first stop is the repeater channel setup. Review and familiarize yourself with these fields. Some important fields to quickly mention are name. This is the display name, which is what you will see on a control head, so be sure not to leave blank. Channel mode, channel type, frequencies, bandwidth, TX power, NAC or NID, your PL and DPL codes. Other fields should stay in default value until better understanding of those various fields. Check for red fields which indicate errors. In the repeater channel setup, it is a very important field, ensuring you have the correct conventional frequencies. This is what the DVRS was ordered for and precisely tuned to by our factory based on the DVR frequencies provided on the purchase order. The filters used by Futurecom are designed for mobile use and are smaller in design compared to the larger size infrastructure base station filters. Base station filters allow for increased selectivity for greater TX and RX isolation. In-band filters are mechanical and not software configurable, therefore cannot be retuned in the field. In-band operation also limits the passband of the DVRS. Passband is the range of frequencies the transmitter can transmit or the range of frequencies that it can receive. For example, for 700 MHz and 800 MHz operation, this is 1 MHz. For VHF and UHF, it is 0.3 MHz. Please make note that the freaks in the DVR will be used to program are the reciprocal of those freaks into a conventional personality in the portables. This will communicate with the DVR on a conventional channel which will tie into the mobile that will talk out to the trunking system. If additional info is needed to better understand the various fields, such as those in repeater channel setup, please visit the Help section. This is done by clicking on the Help icon as circled in red. This will pull up a DVRS Tweaker Help Setup menu. Please, however, note we wish to stress to not change DVR VRX settings unless fully familiar with the meaning of a specific option. The Tweaker program reports any obvious errors and does not allow invalid data to be saved to the DVR. However, not all inconsistencies can be reported by the Tweaker. Successful DVRS program requires thorough understanding of the DVR, MSU, and PSU programming, as well as the specific user system requirements. Only when all templates, DVR, MSU, and PSU, are matched will the DVRS operate properly. For instance, changing the APX MSU template may require a corresponding update of the DVR template, which in turn may require an update of the PSU template. I'll show you here. So if I'm in repeater channel setup, I hit the little question, and that will pull up the repeater channel setup help menu fields. Mobile radio channel setup is the next group of information we will look into. The mobile radio channel setup data was extracted when we exported and imported of the MSU data. The DVR must now be made aware as to which talk groups are DVR enabled and which are DVR disabled. The DVR can be used only on the MSU modes listed in the mobile radio channel setup screen accessible via Tweaker. The next slide will show the mobile radio channel setup. Be sure to review and cross-check against the MSU APX code plug information to familiarize yourself with the logic. You can see all the information that came from the MSU. Some fields will be grayed out, as those fields cannot be changed. Make sure they import it as a check of your mobile radio programming. Review zone number, channel number, name, personality type, and a few others. We'll discuss a few more of the editable fields in this mobile radio channel setup in the following slides. Still in mobile radio channel setup, let's quickly discuss VR channel. If independent channel change is disabled, for example, DVR channel strapping is enabled, this field determines which DVR channel will be automatically selected upon selection of the specified mobile radio mode, talk group, or channel. Strapping is enabled or disabled by the independent channel change field in the DVR. Last field in mobile repeater channel setup to highlight is emergency acknowledgement type. This is basically how you want to acknowledge an emergency. For instance, from the repeater or console, you would select the desired method here, as you would see from the selections in the circle. If set to VRAC, emergency sent by the local PSU and received by the DVR is acknowledged by the DVR. If set to Site AC or Console AC, the DVR sends acknowledgement to the PSU only after the FNE site acknowledges or RCM acknowledges respectively. When unconditional VRAC is selected, the DVR will send an acknowledgement immediately to the PSU to stop the subsequent emergency retries. This is only applicable when the portable AC required field on the emergency mode setup screen is enabled or checked. Note, a help menu is also available within this setup as it was in repeater channel setup. It can be viewed by clicking on the help icon as circled above. This provides explanations on the various fields. Now, from the tweaker navigation tree, we'll go to VR Common Setup. Some fields I would like to point out here are Enable Local Mode. This enables or disables local DVR. Mode selection by the user. Power up options. Repeater can wake up in off, system, or local mode. Display PTT ID. This enables or disables the display of portable PTT ID and talk group ID on the control head. In the same setup, VRID is a field if you want to use remote activation from the local portable. More information on how to program VRID can be found in the Remote DVR Control Talk Group Steering section. Next section to make a quick check is MSU Interface Setup. Here you can dictate what you would like a short DVRS button press on the control head to do. For example, VR menu or DVR activation and deactivation. In a long button press, you can dictate if you want that long press to do the following: none, DVR activation deactivation, or manually become permanent primary control. Final field that merits a quick check in the DVRS tweaker is emergency setup. Review the fields and set the parameters as desired for your operation. Please note, these additional fields are available after the presentation. For the sake of time, we will not get into every detail. We are finally ready to save and write the changes to the DVR. There are various methods as you see here on the slide. However, the recommended method is to hit Repeater, Save Changes to Repeater. The next slide shows this with a screenshot. Be sure to be connected to the USB ports on both the DVRS, VRX, and computer. From tweaker, hit Repeater, Save Changes to the APX repeater. A window will pop up. Hit the Save button. Wait for it to write. After complete, check control head for any errors. Save your work. The DVRS essentially becomes part of the mobile. Control of the DVRS is achieved through the mobile. Activation, channel selection, modes. DVRS status is also displayed on the mobile control head with an icon in the upper right-hand corner. More details on the meanings in the next slide. The DVRS status icon can have many meanings, as you see before you. Take some time after to review these symbols. Also, if you program the menu item, it will be visible on the control head. As per your programming, the short or long DVRS button press can be tested to be sure you have the correct functionality. DVRS mode can be viewed on the top line. SYS is a system mode. If you program the ability to operate in local mode, you can toggle through and see local mode here as well. Two phases are complete. We move on to the final piece, the programming of the portables with the DVRS's conventional freaks to operate on a conventional channel that will tie you into the trunking network. With regards to programming your Motorola APX portables, if the DVRS option QA00631 was purchased with a radio or flashed with it after the fact, the portable will be enabled for enhanced trunking-like features on this conventional channel through the DVRS. Such features as talk per minute and out-of-range tones, patch, P25 trunking, OTAR, end-to-end digital on TDMA P25 Phase 2, and most importantly, direct fallback. Note, the portables do not need this option to pass audio, PTT IDs, and emergency IDs, especially on conventional networks. This will be referred to herein and in our documentation as a generic P25 radio. However, if on a trunking network and the PSUs do not have this option enabled in its feature set, the PSU will not exhibit the enhanced features mentioned. We'll talk about programming both P25 generic and DVRS enabled portables, as well as a brief note on the programming of an analog conventional PSU for analog DVRS mode. A valid ID on the system is extremely important because the PSU will affiliate onto the system. If it has a DVRS option, affiliation is automatic upon powering on the PSU. If it is a generic P25 PSU, it will affiliate upon first PTT. This of course applies to P25 trunking. A good practice is to use the same trunking ID as its conventional ID for the local portable. Key to programming your generic or DVRS enabled portables is a new conventional freaks you plan on entering. Please be sure these conventional freaks meet the proper separation from the system freaks. For more information and a guide with key pointers on freaks for your proper operation, please visit our website and read our white paper on in-band operation. Furthermore, please remember the freaks of the PSU are the reciprocal of the freaks in the DVRS. In addition, if the system is not using talk group IDs on the system, set the default talk group ID to 1. Please again be sure the PSU has a different unit ID than the mobile it is connected to. Same would also apply for the programming of an analog conventional PSU for analog DVRS mode. Approved repeater freaks that are to be entered into a conventional personality, with the PSU freaks being reciprocal of those entered in the DVRS. A few fields in the personality will need to be selected for analog operation, as well as MDC 1200 signaling must be enabled if using MDC emergency. Those were key points to keep in mind. Now we'll step through them in more detail. For starters, a conventional system should be created. The system type is what will drive your signaling in the personalities, so feel free to create a few different system types for different modes of operation. For example, an Astro system, MDC system, and if you had the DVRS option, you will see a system type drop-down for DVRS. Proceed with the remaining fields in a newly created conventional system pertaining to your specifics, paying close attention again to your IDs. Now that the conventional systems are set up, we'll need to create personalities. Start with the correct RX and TX options in which you would like that personality to be. For instance, we all should be already aware for a non-Astro system, TX and RX options would be for analog. these would use PLs. An astral system would be for a digital system and would use NACs or NIDs. Create your frequency options, remembering that TX and RX will be the reciprocal of those in the DVRS. Go to the appropriate fields such as name for easy reference, your proper deviation, and your NACs or NID or PL. Continue scrolling down to the signaling field. Here, we select one of the newly created conventional systems for the signaling type. Unless talk group translation is used, another important note in the personality is the talk group field. Talk group translation is a setting in the DVR in which we will cover in a future session in more detail. Talk groups are important here because the talk groups are used on the trunking system. Finish up any other fields relative to your needs in the personality. Our final field is zone channel assignment. Add a new DVRS zone if desired for easy access or identification, and add your channels, selecting the correct personalities you recently created. Your basic programming should now be complete. Write and save your code plugs and do some small tests with transmit and receive. Check for errors displayed on the control head. Once you have made some simple checks and all is well, if needed, additional programming can take place, adding features such as talk group translation, talk group proxying, steering, remote activation, and more. Be sure to look for additional training that will be on the way in 2018 that will be focused on the programming of specific features. We look forward to your feedback. Please let us know what specifics you would like us to cover next. Again, our website, www.futurecom.com, filled with many valuable resources. Please visit, navigate through the site, utilizing all the material housed there.
For support questions, please email support@futurecom.com. This inbox is monitored by our team, and all questions should be responded to in a timely manner. A good practice would be to have your code plugs and DVRS DPD file ready, if requested, to be emailed into the inbox for troubleshooting. Also, be sure to sign up for our support newsletter. This is where we provide announcements on future training sessions as well as firmware releases. Our contact information is listed above. Please feel free to reach out to us for any additional assistance. Please also follow us on LinkedIn and our newly created YouTube channel. There you will see such videos as a DVRS explainer video as well as customer testimonial videos. These can be shared to easily tell the DVRS story. More videos to be posted in the coming year. Thank you.
Keep up to date with all the technical developments by subscribing to futurecom.com.